Morning, everyone. We'll just wait a couple of minutes while we're letting people in to the meeting, and we'll start shortly. Thank you. Okay, good morning and welcome everyone to the 2026 Reference and Information Services Working Group online seminar. I would like to say hello to everyone from Wiradjuri land today, and I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are all gathering today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Just some housekeeping today. At the end of each speaker, there will be time for questions, and you can pop them in the chat. So today we begin the session with Ian Phillips, Director of I&J Management Services, who has done a paper on reaching out to library non-users. Ian, can I hand over to you?
You can. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. And I'll mute and leave.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, wherever you may be, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I'm going to be talking about non-library non-users. That's the people who don't currently use public libraries. This draws on some work and analysis that we've been doing from a long period of time. I'm a library consultant based in Melbourne, but work all across Australia and work with libraries around benchmarking, strategic planning and library reviews. And as part of that process, we do lots of library surveys, talking to library users and people who don't use the library service. And it's that work that has fed through into the analysis that we've done around library non-users. I have a blog, and some of the things you'll be hearing today have been written up on my blog over the last couple of years. There was also an article published in Public Library Quarterly last year, which addresses this question of non-users. And there are some other information sources that have contributed to the data that we have on library non-users. I should say the slides I've got today will be shared at a later date. So feel free to use anything here in your discussions at a local level. I'm also going to say before I get going too far, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. I have some of the answers in those questions around library non-users, who they are and why they don't use the public library services. But I think what we've got today is we have a framework for thinking about reaching out to non-users. And often the discussion in libraries is how do we engage the people who don't currently use our library services? We've got a way that might help you to narrow those conversations down and be more productive in finding ways to engage the people who might want to engage with your library services. I've got, I think it's 17 slides. So if you can see slide 2 down the bottom of this one, you know how far there is to go. And then there'll be plenty of time for Q&A when we get to the end. So I'm assuming you think that everybody loves libraries. All of the surveys that we run for councils and public libraries tell us that people love libraries, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. They're an accessible, free, welcoming library service. There are lovely librarians in there who will answer your questions. There's lots of resources. There are things to do. There are warm or cool, as needed, comfortable places where you can sit and do your thing, whether that be studying, reading, or snoozing in a quiet corner. And generally, libraries are seen as a safe community space. So this is part of the benefit and the attraction of public libraries, that they are a universally accessible, free service that has a whole lot of resources and things to do. And every time we conduct a survey, we ask people why the library is important to them and their community, and they say the most beautiful things about the public library. Now, of course, these are the library users. But the people who respond to library surveys are library users and not the people who don't use the library service. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And it's what we try to work out, who they are, why they don't use the library, and as a consequence of that, what might we do to be able to engage them? I'm assuming, again, we think that libraries are great. If you don't think libraries are great, that's another conversation. We can have that at the end. But I think libraries are great. And if that's the case, why are there people who wouldn't use the library service? It's there, it's accessible, it's fully resourced, it's fantastic. The research we had, and this goes back many years in Victoria, suggested that around about 40% of the population use a public library. Now, some people come in every day, some people are reading resources every day, but some people may pop in just once or twice a year. But we're looking around about 40% are users, which of course means that 60% are not using a public library in any year. And it's hard to know what that group thinks, because by definition, you don't find them in the library. They're not on your membership list. They're not on your newsletter database. And they're also, in many cases, not predisposed to talk about it or to participate in a survey about libraries because they don't use it. So whenever we run a community survey, we find it hard to engage the non-users. The users love it. The users want to tell us what they think. The non-users are much hard to get to. And even other than standing in the street and flagging people down, it's very difficult to get their responses. Now, as I said, we work with public libraries on a whole range of things, and part of that is doing surveys of community surveys, and that includes library users and non-users. And when we think about the non-user questions, we want to understand who are they demographically, why don't they use the library, and what would have to change in order to make them a library user. So if we think about who uses and who doesn't use a library service. Now, there's a lot of generalization in here, but again, we already know libraries appeal to almost everyone from any demographic. You can find people of all ages, backgrounds, circumstances in a library. Now, we are more likely to see females, young children and their parents, elderly and retired, students, particularly secondary and tertiary students who use the library as a place of study. So there's a range of people who are more likely to be library users, and then there are those who are relatively less likely to be library users. Working people, teenagers, people from called backgrounds, people who can't get to the library, people with low levels of literacy. It's interesting to have a conversation with someone who feels that a library is threatening and intimidating. If you have low levels of literacy, the one thing that a library has is words and books, and that can be challenging. So we find that while the library is there for all, there are people who are more likely to use it and people who are less likely to use it. And they fall into various demographic categories. Now, this little thing runs through, and you can imagine it showing almost the proportion of population within any age group who are likely to be library users. The numbers are made up. The point is to look at the cycle of life. So we're more likely to see preschoolers, children aged 0 to 5, and children in the school years who attend after school activities and school holiday programs. Then it drops off a little. It can pick up during the tertiary years. And then we get the young families who are bringing their kids into story time and other activities. Then when people are in the working years, they tend to be less likely to use the library service. And then it picks up through retirement when people have more flexible time and more available time to use and participate and use the library resources and activities and things as a social place and a place to connect. So people come and dip into the libraries over the course of their life. And it's why if you can get someone predisposed to use of a library at an early age, they may drop out from time to time, but they're also likely to come back if they are familiar with what the library service has to offer. Now, why don't people use public libraries? It would be really easy if there was a single factor that differentiated the users from the non-users. Families with preschoolers versus families with the teenagers, under 60s, over 60s. It would make it easy to reach the non-users and have a conversation with them if there was this single factor, demographic or otherwise, that would help us out. But there isn't, and there isn't for a very good reason, is that people are different. And even our library users, remember, aren't a single homogenous group. We have all ages, we have all backgrounds, we have all circumstances. It's the same with non-users. And if there's one thing I can hope that you take away from this presentation today, it is to not think of non-users as a group, as a single group. There are a range of different reasons why people choose not to use a public library or are unable to use a public library. Some people are time poor. Some people don't see the library as a place that they'd like to go. They may not think that there is anything that the library has to offer them. There are people who migrate to Australia who are not familiar with the concept of a public library. And for them, stepping into that space and understanding that, yes, you can take this stuff home is not something that is part of their experience. So there are lots of reasons why people are not library users. Some of those are personal, some of those are practical, they're lifestyle related, cultural, and or historical. But what I'd like to do is think about 6 different types of library non-user. And I'm going to reference these a couple of times as we move through the slides. And those 6 types are people who are uninterested or not interested in using a public library. Then there are the independents. They feel that they have access to resources. There are people who, for circumstantial reasons, are not at present library users. Then the other 3 groups are the roadblocked, the intimidated, and the unaware. So let's work through each of these 6 groups and try to understand who they are and why they don't currently use a public library. First up, the uninterested. For them, a library holds no interest. They have little or no experience of a library. They're people who don't read for pleasure. Their recreational and social interests don't involve literary or information-related activities, and they are unlikely to want to engage in a conversation about libraries. These are the people who are really hard to connect with. They just don't see that the library has anything for them or could play any part in their life. Now, for those of us who have worked in libraries or have been library users or members for many, many years, that's not our experience, but there are people for whom the library holds no interest. Next were the independents, And this group has alternatives. They will buy their own books. They have access to the internet. They have access to spaces and places and resources and activities that engage and occupy their lives. For them, and this is maybe just at the moment, they don't need a library. They don't see it as a service, as a facility that they want to or need to access at this time, because they've got everything they need at their own disposal. Now, that may not be always the case, but there are people who, at this stage of life, can be termed independent and non-library users. Our next group, these are the circumstantial. And for this group, we've got to think not now. They have an understanding, or they think they have an understanding of what a library has to offer. And if only they had more time. If they weren't busy with work, if they weren't busy with family, if they weren't doing a whole range of other things, then they would probably visit the library. But just right now, they don't have time. Circumstances are against them, and so they tend not to be library users. Often we find people within the 40 to 60 year age group, when you've got family commitments, you've got work commitments, you've got a range of other commitments, they tend to be the circumstantial non-users, not just now. So they're the first three groups. Now move on to the other three. And this is where it starts to get interesting when we get to the future questions around engaging different non-users. First up, the roadblocked. For this group, coming to the library is all about access, or their lack of access to the library service. This group will say that they would use the library if they could. But, there's always a but with this group, the library is not open when it suits them. It's a question of opening hours. They may not have access to public transport or a car or some way of getting to a library. There may be seen issues around disability access at the library. There may be other factors that these people see as preventing them or making it difficult for them to get to the library or to use a library service. If you think in the virtual world, this would be a group who, for whatever reasons, have limited access to technology or limited data, therefore they couldn't access e-resources. For them, there is a reason why they can't access the library, and as large or small as we might think that barrier is, for them it is a significant and an insurmountable barrier. They're the roadblocked. The fifth group is one that I always feel a little concerned about, and they are the intimidated. Some of these people once upon a time had a bad experience in a library. They may have been fined, they may never have got over that fine, they may have been shushed by a librarian. For them, the library is not the sort of place that they think is welcoming or comfortable or inviting. There may be young people hanging around at the library. It might be too noisy. It might be too quiet. There's a whole lot of reasons, real or perceived, why this group feel intimidated by a library. This includes that group who have low levels of literacy. And for them, what we've got to do if we want to engage them is somehow address their past, their experience, their attitudes, their perceptions of public libraries. The final group that we're looking at is the unaware. And this is very simple. Awareness is the threshold issue. They don't know what a modern library has to offer. The last time they were in a library, any library, may have been when they were at school. That could be 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. They don't know what a modern library has to offer, and they think that a library is just books. Now, libraries, of course, have books, but they have so much more that people can use and access. So these are people who have an information block, have an experience block, have a familiarity block. They don't know what the library has to offer. And then if they did know, then we open the possibilities that they might actually become library users. So we've got 6 types of library users: the uninterested, the independent, the circumstantial, the not nows, roadblocked, intimidated, and unaware. Now, here are some figures, and you can plus or minus all of these by a few percent. It's based on aggregating data across a whole range of different surveys. We know that library users make up around about 40% of the population in any year. Based on the surveys we've done, and I'm not going to claim these are hard, but the uninterested represent around about 18% of the population, the independent non-users another 14%, and the circumstantial non-users 8%. Then we have the roadblock, the intimidated is a small group, it's around about 3% there, and then we have the unaware at 9%. And that's your 100% distribution of the people who use or don't use a public library. Now, when we talk to the non-users about what would have to change for them to consider using a public library, the answers are bleedingly obvious. If you go back to the group who were roadblocked, who can't get to the library at a time that is convenient for them, there's a huge proportion, 73%, who say, if there were longer or better opening hours, I might attend the library. For the unaware, high proportion of those say, if I knew more about library services, I would use the library. For those who feel intimidated, you could make the library a more welcoming space, friendlier library staff. The answers are very obvious. If you think about why this person is a non-user, then the things you have to change tend to respond to the reason why that person is a non-user. This is not rocket science, it's just common sense. And so, what can we do to engage non-users? It's a challenge for lots of libraries. How can we increase the impact of what we do? How can we increase the impact and the benefits that we provide to our community? And there are two ways of doing that. And one is to grow the use of the current library users, get people who currently use the library service to use it more. And the other is to reach out and engage non-users, the people who don't currently use the library service. That's 60%. Now, I'm not a marketing expert, I'm a statistician. So anyone in marketing, feel free to correct anything I'm about to say. But basically, the questions we want to think about when we think about the non-users: who do we want to engage? Why? What benefits or outcomes do we think we have to offer? What do we want to say to them? What do we want them to do in response to that? And how do we reach them? How do we communicate with the non-users? So all those issues of who are you, what do we want to say, and how do we get that message to you? And here you've got to remember, just in the same way that the way in which we serve library users is different because they are different groups, the answers to these questions will be different for different non-user groups and different demographics and different user groups. So we've got to think about the people who are unaware and where they are in the life stage, and whether they are likely to be readers or users of the space or users of activities. There are many different possibilities and combinations. It's that point I made earlier about the fact that we're not talking about a single homogenous group. Non-users are all unique in the same way that all users are unique. So when we start to try to answer these questions, we have to think about the different user groups, the demographics, and the services that might be accessible to them. Now, that's a lot of questions. I don't have the answers, and I'm sure that no single person anywhere has the answers to all of those possible questions, which is why when we think about non-users, you're best to have a conversation with those and around you and pool the knowledge of the people within your library service and people who work in other library services, because between us, we're probably going to do better at answering the questions and coming up with ways to move forward. Now, I would like to step through each of the 6 groups. And this is what I think you can do to engage non-users. And when I stop talking, which won't be too far away, we can think about any ideas you've got as to how we can engage non-users. First up, the uninterested, 18% of the population, and I'm saying leave them alone. That might sound harsh, that might sound challenging, but these are people who have expressed a deliberate, direct non-interest in libraries. You could spend a lot of energy trying to engage this group, and your chances of success is very low. I'd argue use your energy elsewhere. Leave the uninterested alone. Next up are the independent. Remember, they're about 14% of the population. For this group, what we want to do is to maintain a general awareness and recognition of what a library has to offer, so that if their circumstances change, which they may one day do, that they will move into the library user group. If for whatever reason they become less independent, if they have that connection with or awareness of what the library has to offer, then that's when they move into a different group and you can engage them. So in order to do that, I think what we're looking at with this group is what I've called soft mass market messaging. You just need general awareness of of the library's place within the community. That can happen through the things that you do in local newsletters with your council, local media, local press, presence at community activities, festivals, fetes, school activities. Just keep awareness of the library in the general community. The independents will be aware of that, and should their circumstances change, they may come along. Next up is the circumstantial, 8% of the total. They're open to library use, but not just now. So once again, as with the independents, you just want to use those soft mass market messaging strategies. Keep them aware of what your library has to offer today. And as your library offering evolves, you need to keep that awareness within the community of what your library is doing now. Keep that there, and you may have the capacity to attract the independents and the circumstantial as things change. Now, for those of you that can do the maths, add those up. That's 40% of the population. And in effect, I'm saying, apart from that general communication, that general whole of community awareness raising, I'm saying leave this lot alone. And I know that's 40%. That's a big chunk of the population. But I think your energies and resources can be better directed elsewhere to more success. And those 40%, if you add the independents and the circumstantial, 22 of them may come back to you at some point in the future. And even the uninterested, things may change for them at some point. But for now, just leave those 40% alone. There was also the point that if 100% of the population wanted to use public libraries, most of you couldn't cope. One of the greatest things is to be in a library when it's absolutely packed and jumping. And remember, that's just dealing with the 40%. We couldn't cope with 100% if we had them all simultaneously. Now, if we've got 40% of users and this 40% that I'm parking to the side, that leaves 20%. And here's where I think we can start to make some headway. First up, the roadblocked. I can't get there because something is preventing me accessing or using the library service. Here, opening hours is number one. Now, I know you can't all just turn the tap on opening hours, but that's the thing that is the major thing that is preventing this group from being at the library. So you have to think about, is it possible to spread our hours to a way that would increase access for people who currently can't or are unable to do that? Look at new service models. I've mentioned there open libraries and lockers. Again, expand your online offering for people who might not be able to reach the library, but might be able to use online services and online resources. Think about access for people who are disabled and make sure that that's all at the level it needs to be. Outreach, take the community, take the library out to the people. Because often what we find is that if people begin to know what a library has to offer, it will draw them in. So for those who can't get to the library, go to them. Home library services, presentations in the community, just try to reach out in lots of different ways, and that's the way to make inroads into that roadblocked group. And here, you've got to think about how you reach them. They are out there. And again, you've got your general messaging around the library offering. And again, try to work through possibly community centres or other community partners where you might find the people who are currently roadblocked. The fifth group are the intimidated. This is hard work. They're hard to find. And here you've actually got to change attitudes. Opening hours is something that you do within the library. Here you're trying to change something that is within this person, their experience. You need to make the service look and feel more attractive, more accessible, more welcoming. Look at your workforce profile, look at your customer service approach, make sure that everything that you're doing reduces the possibility that someone who feels intimidated might feel a little uncomfortable in the library. For me, I think the most important way of reaching out to this group is to actually use advocates who are not from the library. Use community-based library champions, the people who use the library and think the library is fantastic. You get them to talk to the intimidated because that's their a person to a person rather than champions to advocate and say, here are the benefits, here's what I gain from the library, here are the benefits to be part of your message with the intimidated. Finally, the unaware, and this is simply about making the library the talk of the town. You've got to find a way to get people aware of what a modern library has to offer. And this is absolutely something that you can do by working through other partner organisations, schools, community groups, welfare agencies, historical societies, whoever it might be, connect with them. You'll invariably find that some people, some parts of the community who are already connected to the schools and those groups are library users and some are not. Get out to those, and that's how you can get the message out to people who are in that unaware group. You can also look at some targeted marketing campaigns if you can identify an appropriate channel. And it goes back to those issues of who we're trying to reach, what are we trying to say, and how do we get that message to them. Raise the profile of the library to get to the unaware. And this is the 20% of the population where I think if you want to grow library use by engaging non-users, these are the three groups, and in particular, the roadblocked and the unaware, that I think you're most likely to have success. So, where are we? Libraries are for everyone, and they're never going to be used by the entire community. Remember those uninterested. They just don't want to be there. Don't work too hard. Think about the non-users as the different groups, and that way you can tailor your discussions, your responses based on the motivations of the those 6 different non-user groups. Target in your responses the reasons why people don't use the library. Opening hours, not aware, friendly, welcoming spaces. They're the things that are most likely to be able to draw people in who currently aren't using the library services. And be targeted in your approach more so than the necessary general marketing and general awareness raising stuff that is probably more important for the independent and the circumstantial than those who are in the roadblocked and unaware group. And finally, accept that whatever you do, you're never going to get anyone. And I've got 2 quotes here from different library surveys that we've run over the years. And as I said, sometimes when you ask people, they'll say the most beautiful and profound things about the benefit of a library. A source of knowledge, a meeting place, a symbol of community strength, and open to all. And then there are the people who are less enthused by libraries. It costs me a lot of money paying my rates for something I don't ever use or will never use. Make it support itself financially. Why should my rates be used so lazy teenagers can sit and play video games at the library? Don't expend your energy trying to get to that person. Use it on the non users where we think you might actually get them to come and turn into a library user and a lifelong library user. That's all I have to say for now. That's my blog, www.annalibraries.com. There's a whole lot of stuff there about library users and everything else that's related to data and public libraries. And for now, that's it. Happy to take any questions, comments, and have a good chat about library non-users.
Everyone is welcome to put any questions in the chat, and I'll pass those to Ian if you'd like. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
So we have a question from Michelle Head. Do you have any examples of campaigns that have worked well with getting non-users engaged?
Really hard to find. The one thing I think the references I would go to are around the unaware, and it's those relationships with local organisations, and particularly schools are one good channel, but often community centres, neighbourhood houses tend to be those where you find the greatest conversion of non-users to users, particularly in some country areas that we've worked with here in Victoria and in parts of WA, where people don't know what the library has to offer. The library builds a relationship with the community centre or the neighbourhood house, and then it's a case of getting people or bringing people into the library. And then when they see what's on offer, it's a case of, oh, wow, that's great. One thing I do remember that stands out is we're working with a library as a community engagement, developing a strategic plan. And as part of the process, the councillors were involved in a community activity where were promoting the library to various community groups. And the mayor suddenly realised that libraries had e-resources and that she could download books from the library if she was a library member that would supplement the use of her Kindle. And so you've got someone who was right there at the coalface but didn't know what the library had to offer. So anyway, she's now a very active library user. So work through organisations that are already connecting to people within the community. They seem to work best.
Thank you. So our next question is from Gerard, and they have asked, would you think that some uninterested users may be unaware of services offered by modern libraries?
Absolutely. And it's why there is some fluidity within the groups. As I talked, the independent and the circumstantial might change their views, and so later that's why you keep that general awareness up of what the library has to offer, so that when circumstances change, they come in. It's also true for the uninterested, but in the conversations that I've had with people from within that cohort, my sense is that they are very hard work, and circumstances would have to change significantly for them to move over. And it's not just awareness. There is something about their lifestyle and the way that they choose to live their life it's not that they're anti-library, but it's almost going that far for that uninterested group. But yes, of course, they're flexible, and there is an element of not being aware in that group. But I'm also going to say it's not a high proportion of that 18%. It might be 1 or 2.
Thank you. Our next question is from Marsha, and she's asking, have you got any good examples of ways to engage the unaware user?
Again, I just go back to that question earlier. Schools, early learning centres, outreach activities, neighbourhood houses, senior citizens clubs. What you want to get to is get to a place where people are, where you can come along and raise awareness. So again, it's not the general awareness, it's working through specific organisations in your community. Outreach is really, it's the first thing you're doing is outreach. And again, it's the, let's go along to the local retirement village or an aged care home or community centre and just talk to them about what the library has to offer. And again, I just raised that issue earlier around using champions. So use the people who are your current library users to speak to others within the community. I've always found that's one that connects. And when you talk to some non-users who become users, they found out through a friend or someone who was telling them about what the library had to offer. And it's that use the community in voice to engage the community.
Thank you. Our next question is from Jacinta, and then she also noted that the intimidated are the hardest, I think. And she's asking, have you examples of how these people have been convinced that we've changed?
They are, I mean, the uninterested are just hard work. The intimidated are hard work in a different way because you so desperately want them to change their opinions. But some of that is entrenched. Libraries have already done the most significant thing you can do to address the concerns of the intimidated, and that's the removal of library fines. We can't always understand the motivations or what makes people think the way they do. But some people hang on to experiences for a long, long time. And it's always a little bit tough when you're talking to someone who will tell you, I didn't go to the library for 30 years because I had a library fine. And I thought they'd look down on me when I went to use the library and they wouldn't let me in. And it's like, no, I think we're much better than that. So the first step is already there, but again, it comes back to changing their perceptions, trying to overcome an experience that has been ingrained in their thinking for a long period of time. So again, that same point about using community champions to try to get to the intimidated. Now, they're only 3% of the total. There's not a lot of them there, but I always just feel terrible having those conversations. Hope that answered your question, Jacinta.
Thank you. Our next question for Rubiat is, how did you do these surveys that led to identifying these groups? Was there a team asking questions at library programs, at a help desk, or at library outreach, for example? Thank you.
Yeah. These are not things you do at the library because by definition, they're not there. Invariably, this information comes from where we've run community-wide surveys more than library user surveys. And that's where there's a survey. I mean, often it's the same survey, but there's a question up front that says the user, non-user, and they go down a slightly different path and then join back in towards the end. It's where we're doing a community survey, and the library and through its council will promote the survey widely to the community and encourage responses. you do tend to get better responses when there's some incentive to participate, which is not necessarily a library-related incentive. But what we tend to find is that if you've got a community survey out there and it's promoted through, say, council newsletters, in the press, on the local radio, or getting library users, if they know people who are not library users, get them a hard copy of the survey and say, go, if you can pass this on to someone you know who isn't a library user, do that. We'd just love to hear what they have to say. You tend to not get great numbers, and that's why the figures that I presented in terms of the distribution of that group comes from aggregating data across a whole range of different surveys. They're very hard to reach the non-users, but it is good when you do it because you tend to learn a lot, and we continue to reinforce what we've got here in terms of these 6 groups. These 6 groups emerged pretty doing over a course of 20 years, but they're pretty set now. There are other motivations, but they tend to fall down within these 6 categories.
Okay, we have another question. In your opinion, this is from Josh. In your opinion, Ian, how much do libraries need to further evolve in order to remain relevant?
Wow. We so don't have enough time to address this question. Remember, I'm not a librarian. I'm a statistician. I worked in pretty much every industry sector there is. But I've been working predominantly and mainly in libraries for probably the last 10, well, certainly in libraries for 25 years, predominantly in library for most of the last 10 years. I am continually amazed by people within the library sector who think about that question of relevance. Are we still relevant? How do we remain relevant? I think libraries have demonstrated over a long period of time that they are very good at remaining relevant. And you just got to, in most cases, walk into a library and see what it offers today, because it's not the same that was offered 5 years ago. It's not the same that was offered in 10 years ago, and it's not going to be the same in another 5 years' time. The library offering continues to evolve because the people who are engaged, who work in the library sector, know that they have to remain relevant to their communities. So I think you already do a fabulous job of that. The challenge for me is conveying that constant evolution of libraries to the community. Because if someone hasn't been into a library for even 10, 20, 30 years, they're completely out of touch. Even 10 years, they don't know what a library has to offer today, and they won't know what a library has to offer tomorrow. That's why I think there's a need for libraries to be constantly having that soft messaging out into the community with all of the new things that you're doing. And the best example of that, and it seems obvious to many, is e-resources. Prior to COVID, e-resources represented around about 8% of all borrowing. We're now looking at something in the order of 30%, 30, somewhere between high 20s, low 30s of borrowing is E. So that's within the space of 6 years. Libraries continue to evolve, continue to remain relevant, continue to reach out and respond to the needs of people in the community. We just need to make sure that we're constantly bringing the community along with us in understanding what libraries have to offer.
Wonderful. One final question from Ying. What is the best way to reach out for the cold non-users, in your opinion, Ian?
Yeah, again, I'll go back to the issue around working through partner organisations. That one, So if there is a local community group that has particular representation of a single or multiple cold communities, that's the best way we've found to get into that community is to go through the places where they already gather the people they already know and respect and rely on. So it's not about the library going direct, it's the library working through. And sometimes, again, if you can get a library champion from within that cold community to be part of the process of engaging with the community, you're more likely to have an impact.
Thank you, Ian. And on behalf of everyone who's attended today, thank you for your time and for sharing your knowledge and your studies. It's been appreciated by everyone. So big thank you, Ian.
No worries. Thank you all very much. And keep doing what you do. You know, libraries are awesome. We just have to spread the message.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, our next sessions will begin at 11 o'clock. We'll just be using the next 5 to 8 minutes to get everything set up. If you want to go have a quick cup of tea or a personal break, feel free, and we'll see you all back in at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
We'll get just a, okay, so it's 11 o'clock. We've got the lightning talks coming up now. So there's 7, and then at the end of that, we'll have a little update on question research that we were doing earlier in the year. I'm now going to introduce Olivia Biznani-Papers from Penrith City Library and her little talk on Citizen Science Corner. Take it away, Olivia.
Thank you, Jacinta. Hi, everybody. My name's Olivia, and I'm a librarian in the Adults Programs and Outreach team at Penrith City Library. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and paying respect to the Darug and Gundungurra people, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the lands in which the Penrith LGA is situated. I will be presenting on our Citizen Science Corner and outlining how it started, how it's going, the challenges, and the corner's future. My colleagues Jacinta and Carrie have collaborated on this presentation, and we are the Citizen Science Corner champions at Penrith Library. Next slide, please. Our library had a history of delivering popular science-based workshops and programs, predominantly for children, promoting science learning and showcasing local presenters. These programs consistently demonstrated strong community interest and led us to establish a partnership with the Blue Mountains-based organisation, Science at the Local, to deliver science talks for all ages. This collaboration proved highly successful, and the program has continued to grow into a well-attended quarterly event that encourages community members to learn and explore science together. In 2025, ALIA invited public libraries to express interest in developing citizen science corners. We saw this as an opportunity to extend the customer experience and broaden exposure to scientific resources and developments. We successfully secured a grant and used the funding to develop interactive science kits and design a dedicated citizen science corner at our Penrith branch. Next slide, please. Citizen science is scientific research conducted by everyday people. Citizen scientists observe various phenomena such as wildlife, rainfall, or stars, then upload their observations into dedicated apps and websites, and those contributions are used in real scientific research. Citizen Science Corners are specialised areas of libraries or community centres that aim to engage youth and community members in research projects that contribute to real-life global solutions at a local level and build partnerships with relevant organisations. Next slide. Our corner began modestly with recycled shelving and 3 varieties of kits focused on exploring biodiversity, mapping mosquito habitats, and measuring light in the night. Corner was officially launched in August 2025 as part of a science week and at our event, Science at the Local, Decoding the Universe. Next slide, please. In January, the library ran a holiday program that promoted the corner. The Citizen Science Family Workshop was aimed at children aged 6 and up and their families. The event was facilitated by educators from Planting Seeds, an organisation that works to regenerate the urban landscape through education and actions to support local biodiversity. The workshop introduced citizen science, how it works, and why it matters. The kits and citizen science platforms were explained, and a hands-on activity was run. Families headed outside and recorded images of our local environment and uploaded them onto the iNaturalist app. Staff received positive feedback from the participants who excitedly uploaded their photos of wildlife. Next slide, please. The corner's learnable resources were also extended with the addition of Spark boxes, which come in 2 varieties, Junior Discovery boxes and Curiosity Discovery boxes, and they are listed on this slide. Next slide. In March, 3 of us were assigned the task of taking care of the corner and activating the space to engage more patrons. Initially, we made some aesthetic improvements. We added a rug, some lounges, additional pamphlet holders, decorations, and a wall decal. We wanted to make the corner brighter and more colourful and more of a special and specific place, not just a lacklustre corner. We were also able to promote our kits at our last Science at the Local event, in which Dr. Thomas Masalio from NSW discussed his research in biodiversity informatics and how platforms like iNaturalist enable everyday people to record organisms in their local environments. The event was attended by 26 people, and several attendees spoke to staff about the kits at the end of the event. Next slide, please. There have been 2 main challenges in establishing and developing this corner, relating to sources and location or discoverability. Initially, identifying a suitable space, assembling the kits, and cataloguing with limited staff resources was difficult, and lack of time and resources continues to be challenging. Secondly, the corner is located far into the library. It is not visible from the main library area, and it is quite a distance from the junior area. Many primary-aged children are unaware that the corner exists. As such, improving the discoverability of the corner is a priority for us. Additionally, we typically run our science-based events for free to allow all community members to participate. This results in a higher level of no-shows. However, keeping the programs free is important. Next slide, please. We have been very inspired by the Citizen Science Corners and related programs at other libraries. And going forward, there are several improvements and adjustments we would like to make to the corner, and many more programs that we would like to run. For example, we would like to further upgrade the space with purpose-bought furniture. We would like to set up quarterly themed displays, highlighting projects or platforms. We would love an interactive device in which patrons could log their observations or view the different platforms. And we are looking into creating partnerships both internally and externally with the aim of delivering a broader range of programs and events. Citizen science allows for individual and community participation in real scientific inquiry and research that doesn't require formal training, specialised knowledge, or expensive equipment. Libraries with citizen science corners can effectively eliminate these barriers and provide communities access to meaningful projects and contribute to the building of scientific literacy for anyone with a library card and an interest to learn. Think about it. Is there space in your library to begin a citizen science corner? Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. So we've got one question from Ellen, and they were wondering, have you noticed information requests about related topics, for example, books or databases? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have had several inquiries as a result of the corner, also of our presence on our website and our pamphlets. The inquiries have been about the local environment, including flora and fauna, as it's quite rich in the Penrith area and the Nepean River running through. So there's a lot of bird life and a lot of insects. I know that we have had other inquiries.
We have 1 minute left.
Sure. That also relate to the local observatory, which is a pathway that we're going to be looking into.
Thank you. Our next question is, what type of interactive devices have you been looking at? Does it work with iNaturalist or other databases?
Use of iPads and tablets, Android or either, will work with iNaturalist. I'm using an Android phone to use iNaturalist. It's not something that we have concrete plans for at the moment, but I do know at places like the Australian Museum, they are using a touchscreen kind of Solus display or iPads. So typically you can upload your observations, you can view other observations, and you can contribute to other people's work by helping them identify their species.
Okay, I think that's all we've got time for. So thank you very much, Olivia.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
And now I'd like to move to the next slide and introduce Alana Choice, who's from Richmond Tweed Regional Library, and she's talking to us about seed sharing today.
Thanks, Jacinta. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I am Alana Choice. I'm the Tweed Area Librarian with Richmond Tweed Regional Library, and I'm joining you from Bundjalung country this morning. So at its core, public libraries, all of our public libraries, strive to be institutes of access and equality, a place where the communities can come to access a pool of resources so that everyone, regardless of income, background or circumstance, can access something valuable. You borrow it, you use it, and you return it, then someone else can benefit. So a seed library collection operates under that same simple premise. It's a seed library, not just a seed bank or a depository, but a seed lending library where residents and members can borrow seeds, plant, grow and harvest from them, and then return saved seeds to the library, ideally with a little bit extra, so other patrons can borrow and benefit. Unlike commercial seeds, which are often hybrids bred for industrial growing and can be unreliable when saved, a seed library focuses on open pollination and heirloom varieties of seeds that have been adapted to the local climates and passed down through the seasons, so we know that they can perform in the local area. So when you check out a packet of tomato seeds, you're not just growing a vegetable, you're participating in a chain of sharing and stewardship in your local area. Next slide, please. I forgot to say that when I flipped. And you could probably just go to the next one as well. Thanks, Jacinta. So the main goal of the Tweed Shire Seed Library was to encourage sustainability whilst growing community involvement and a sense of sharing. So to provide the community with free access to plants which are suited to the region and have adapted to local conditions. The project aimed to reinforce the sense that libraries are open to all members of the community by encouraging people to visit the library and to source seeds, as well as accessing the information that they need to grow them. It added a new dimension to the use of the library space by opening it up to a new community-focused collection. The Seed Library project has provided the opportunity for us to develop collaborative partnerships with local gardening organisations, the farming community, other school projects, programs and food banks, as well as local gardening centres. On top of this, also partnerships with individuals. It's provided the opportunity to help low-income families grow affordable food, support seniors who want to maintain a collection to their land, and also provided children a tangible living lesson in science, ecology, and patience. So above all, we wanted to encourage two-way involvement between the library and these organisations, groups, and library members to strengthen the community involvement and benefit in them investing in library programs and services. Over time, building a sense of pride and belonging amongst the community as they got more involved in the project. And we also found that the greater the participation of these partnerships and collaborations, the greater the potential to reduce the costs involved in running a seed library over time, and the stronger the collection becomes with the plants that you are offering because they're tried and true in local conditions. So how do you actually build a seed library? Good news is you don't need a large budget or to be a horticulturalist. You can start small with a few hundred seed packets stored in brochure holders or a dedicated shelf with labelled envelopes to get you off the ground. We partnered with local schools and gardening clubs that were already in our library spaces when we started and established our initial collection from donations. We were able to pay that collection back, that generosity back to local preschool schools and the gardening clubs within a year of establishing the collections. There are also opportunities with local seed companies or online seed companies that have many of which have donation programs. So you can reach out to them specifically and they can provide seeds to establish a seed library in some circumstances as well. We'd also encourage checking with your local council for any regulations that you need to be aware of regarding bylaws or what can and can't be grown in your local area. Then it's just a matter of creating a simple borrowing policy. So we offer families 5 seed packets per visit. This has changed over time. So COVID times where people were accessing it, we moved to a click and collect type setup. We went to 10 seed packets per visit. So patrons check out a number of seed packets. You encourage, but we don't require seed return. But we think of it in a similar way of book donations. So with the collection growing over time through generosity. Another important thing is to document what you have. So we keep a simple spreadsheet of the collections that we offer. We roll out 2 seasons a year of different seed packets for the growing conditions. And then we collate how many seed packets we issue each quarter. So the Murwillumbah Library Seed Library started in 2007 with donated seeds. We now issue between 2,500 and 3,000 seed packets per quarter. It was established after a suggestion from a local community member. We had gardening clubs already using the spaces for regular catch-ups, and after attending a talk in the local area where it was the Port Macquarie Seed Library was highlighted, they requested investigation as to whether we could start a seed library in the Tweed Shire. So there have been a number of challenges and opportunities over the years. The Murwillumbah Library has now reached 10 years of the collection being established. You can see that was the launch in the top corner there, and then recreated the photo last year for the press around the 10-year anniversary. We did also roll out to our Tweed Heads and Kingscliff libraries throughout this time, but we found while the seed collection was popular in people borrowing it, we didn't see that reciprocation or that involvement from the community to return seeds at those two areas. So it was hard to maintain on that sustainability front. Another thing we've sort of seen come and go is that impact of GMO or hybridized seeds in people being able to replenish or recontribute stock. That has had impacts over time. We do also try and do a lot of education and information with programming around how to store seeds, how to save seeds, and what works and what doesn't for the local area. If you want to click through to the next one, thanks, Jacinta. This one, you'll just be able to click through. This is just some of the promotional material that we've had over time. So we try and partner with local authors. We've been very fortunate in that some of our Garden Club members have provided local volumes on growing seeds and plants in the area and what's suited. We also cross-promote with beekeeping groups and children's story times, school visits and visits to community gardens. And we try and keep these in and plant swaps with the seeds, with the seasons, so that you're reaching people when their seeds are becoming established and they have the opportunity to collect them. We have been very fortunate to have some staff members in Mooloolaba particularly who absolutely love this project. But we are looking forward to, in the next couple of years, succession planning around more volunteering and more sustainability within this project. So at the moment, we say it's about 5 hours per week of staff time. There are some on costs of how to store the seeds, and we've worked with different things over time. The envelopes, now we use Ziploc bags and printouts with growing instructions on the front that can be printed quite easily. But we're always looking for ways to make that more sustainable and more efficient. We'd also like to explore traditional bush foods, spices, and pollinating
You have 1 minute
natives.
left.
So that's where we're looking to move in the next year. That's fine. Happy to take questions now if you like.
So our first question is from Caitlin, and they'd like to know, do you focus on seeds that produce food, or are decorative flowers included as well?
We do focus on vegetables and herbs, and then we have a couple of flowers, but they are bee attracting or pollinating attracting flowers that we focus on.
Thank you. Our next question is from Nicola. They'd like to know, do you work with other areas of council, for example, a local government area nursery cultivating native plants?
We have in the past, particularly around events. So if we're going to do a promotion of this, we will reach out to the local nurseries, and they quite often will provide us seedlings or things that we can do programs around storytime plantings and that sort of thing. So yeah, we have done that in the past as well.
Thank you, Karen. Alana, we're now at time, so thank you very much for that presentation. Next up, we have Karen Miller from Singleton Library, and she's going to talk to us about her neurodivergent social group. Thanks a lot, Karen.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jacinta. Hello, everyone. Sorry, Jacinta, could we have our slides? Yep, thank you. Sorry about that.
Sorry. No, that's me.
So, as Jacinta said, my name's Karen Miller, and I am from Singleton Library here in the Hunter Valley on Wonnarua land, and I'm the Library Programs Officer here. And today I'm going to be talking to you about our neurodivergent social group. Next slide, thanks, Jacinta. So I guess firstly, what is a neurodivergent social group? That is a question we needed to start answering from the community when we started talking about getting the group together. And so anything that we did, advertising and marketing, we actually put a little brief description there because we did have community members come and ask us that. So I guess making sure we understand the term. So our brief description was that neurodiversity is an umbrella term that encompasses a range of neurological variations, including autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. And so we had a few examples there, just in case community members still didn't understand. Next slide, please. So why a neurodivergent social group? Well, to start off with, we had Caleb, a young man from the neurodivergent community here in Singleton, approach us to find out whether or not there was a space available in the library to run a community group for young adults with autism. And what he wanted to do with the group was he wanted to be able to meet new people, make new friends, have fun, and just sort of hang out. So he came along with his mum and spoke to us here at the library just to see what we could offer at the library, what he thought the group would do, the area we have, what sort of resources we could offer, that sort of thing. But the main thing he wanted to get across was that he also wanted to look forward to something. Instead of just being at home, that sort of thing. So he just wanted to make sure he could make new friends. So at our initial meeting, Caleb and his mum came along. We showed them the area that we had available. We discussed different ideas for the group, what he thought he'd be doing with the group, that sort of thing. And we also spoke about what the library expectations were for community groups, such as looking after the area they'd be using, if they were going to be moving furniture around, making sure it was put back in place, that sort of thing. And we also spoke to Caleb about coming on board as a volunteer with the thought of it would actually provide him with a bit more support running the group here at the library. And then he went away with his mum. They looked over the volunteer information. They discussed what we could offer. We also here at the library had a bit of a chat about the group itself. And we also put out an expression of interest to the community to see if there was, in fact, a need for the community. They wanted to have a group, different dates and times, things like that, that they might be interested in. Next slide, thanks, Jacinta. So after we got the expression of interest back from the community, we found there was a lot of positive feedback. And yes, we did want to go ahead with the group. We spoke with Caleb and he did want to come on board as a volunteer as well. And so he went away and got his working with children check and then came back to us. Now that part of the process probably took a little while, just meeting up again, that second part. And Caleb also came back to us saying that he didn't want anybody to miss out on the group at all. So we've changed from young adult autism attendees to open up to all neurodiverse peoples and to be for adults 18 plus. Next decision we had to come up with was when to start the group. And it was coming up towards Christmas at that time. So people were going to be away on holidays, that sort of thing. So we decided to start it in the new year. Thanks, Jacinta. So we came up with a date, which was Tuesday, the 14th of January, and we decided to run the group to start off with on a fortnightly basis between 5 and 6. We got the advertising and marketing out, and by about that stage, it had taken about 6 months to get to this point. We advertised on social media with flyers in the library, in our library email, and also at the interagency meetings and at youth network meetings. And the word must have got out because for our first group, we got about 10 people turn up, which was fantastic. And Caleb had sort of organised the group as a bit of a get to know each other just that first day. But what they did find out was that they did actually know, a few of the people did actually know each other. They just hadn't seen each other for a really long time. So it was really great to see a lot of friends get back together again. To start off with, some of the parents and carers, they did stick around just on tables at the back just while the group got together. But after a few sessions, that stopped happening and they were just being dropped off. The attendees were just being dropped off at the front of the library and making their way through. Again, with the staff, we introduced ourselves to the parents and carers, so if there was ever an issue, they knew who to come to. And we did wander down the first 2 sessions just to make sure what was going on, have a look at making sure everyone was okay. But again, that stopped again after the first few sessions. But after the initial session, the biggest complaint was that it wasn't enough time and that they had to wait a whole nother fortnight to see each other. Next slide, please. So now, what does our Singleton Library Neurodivergent Social Group look like? So initially, as we were saying, the first group was only for an hour on a fortnightly basis. It was immediately apparent that they wanted more. So we've changed to be on a weekly on a Tuesday between 4:30 and 6:30, and it's for adults 18 plus in the neurodivergent community here in Singleton. So what do? They have loads and loads of fun activities every week. They play games, they play card games, they use the Nintendo Switch, they have scavenger hunts, they hide and find items throughout the library, they read together, they locate books, they also do trivia. Lots and lots of fun can be had, and we can actually hear their laughter throughout the library. We also keep Caleb up to date with the different resources we have in the library, and he can choose something from the games cupboard if he wants each week. And they also suggest different things for us to get for their group as well, such as different Nintendo Switch games. On average, we get about 4 or 5 attendees every week. That's a core group. And then there are also members who might only come once or twice a month. And then there's new members as well that might come in. Next slide, please, Jacinta. And the benefits for the group. One of the biggest things, the feedback we got from the parents and carers, was the positive impact that the group is making on the attendees' lives. They look forward to it every week. They love coming, and they've loved their new friend group. They've also created a community for themselves where they go out, they celebrate birthdays together, they have picnics together, that sort of thing. So they might meet here at the library, but they also have made themselves friends outside of the library as well. For staff, we hear the cackling laughter throughout the library, so that's actually a really good night to be working here in the library on a Tuesday night. And we also occasionally get involved in their games as well, so that can be a lot of fun. And we're also, by having this group, opening the library use to people who are community attendees that haven't always used the library in the past. So there's a benefit there as well. Thanks, Jacinta. Next slide. And I just wanted to say thank you to being asked to present a talk to you. If anybody would like any further questions, please ask them now, or here's my contact details and you can get in touch. Thanks so much.
Hi, our first question is asking, does your library formalise this kind of community partnership that you made with Caleb? If so, how? And then they gave the example that at Bellwood Library, they write a Memorandum of Understanding, which is co-authored by the library and the stakeholder. So
yeah, sure. So
that one, thank you.
Yeah, no problems. We're actually going through a process at the moment where we're re-looking at how we actually do that with some of the community groups. With Caleb, it was a little different, asking him to come on board as a volunteer, but that is something that we're looking at doing in future groups and things like that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. That looks like all of the questions from the chat. Everyone's just saying how great it was and that they loved your talk.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Karen. That was really interesting to hear. We now have Renee Waters from the Central Coast Library, and she's talking about her Inquisitive Minds program. So off you go, Renee.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacinta. If you could give me one more click, please, that would be great.
There you go.
Beautiful. Thank you. So hi, everybody. I am Renee from the Central Coast Library Services. And I'm part of the Outreach Children's team for children and young adults. And my role is primarily to develop programs and take them around to our 10 library branches. We're quite a big LGA, as well as to preschools and community centres and any kind of outreach program that you can think of like that. Beautiful. Next slide, please. Thank you. And another click. Sorry, I've got a few clicks here, Jacinta. So I'm here today to talk about Inquisitive Minds. So it first was started in, back one, in term 1 of 2024. So during the school holidays, I will go around and run programs for, mostly for children in primary school and high school. And a lot of homeschool community were coming to these programs and finding great value in these programs. And they started asking, can you do something during the day, in the middle of the term for our homeschool community? And I got this inquiry a few times and I thought, oh, there really is a gap in the offering for this. We don't have it. But I also knew that we had tried before and things had kind of fizzled out or not gained the traction. So I kind of formulated a bit of a plan and took it to my team, and we talked about the challenges that might come up, and then decided to give it a go. It's better to try and fail than never to try at all. Next slide, please. Perfect. And my notes page hasn't come up, so I'm just talking off my mind here too. So excuse me if I'm a little bit clicky here. So next I had to decide what I was going to do. Was I going to run an arts-based program or a science program? And I decided actually that, I'm going to do a STEAM-based program, which encompasses a whole range of disciplines. That way I can keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and, potentially I can get some children to come in and they can make some friends, form a community, have a great fun time. And then, they might do a term of science and then a term of engineering, and then maybe there's an art program next term. And maybe they wouldn't ordinarily do that, but because they were part of this community, they were going to give it a go. And that's what I found, that children are trying things that they maybe wouldn't ordinarily have a natural interest in. Next slide, please. So the evolution of Inquisitive Minds. So it started off, I just run this program on my own. So the ideas come out of my brain, resourcing it, marketing, photographing, all the organisation, it's just me. So I wanted to start it quite small and manageable. So I started off with one morning program, 3 times a term with 10 participants. That seemed manageable. Then after by term 3, the tickets were going on sale and I was booking out, and I had people emailing me saying, oh no, we missed out on tickets from my past participants. So then I introduced an afternoon program as well, which just mirrored the morning program so that I could double my capacity to have 20 participants. One more click for me, please, Jacinta. And then I started getting some inquiries. I wish you could run something up in the northern end of the Central Coast because we're quite spread out. And comments on Facebook, we would love something. So then I introduced another program up the northern end of the Central Coast. So now I run a morning program, an afternoon program, and an after hours program, all on the same day, 3 times a term, and now have 30 participants. So it's just kind of sustainably grown, which has been great. One more click there. Beautiful. So as I mentioned, everything's coming out of my brain and my time. So I definitely try and take advantage of existing programs and resources. So, for example, I had ran a space-based program, but I took advantage of this Postcards to Space initiative where children can develop a postcard with a message that they'd like to send to space, the importance of space exploration. And that little top rocket on the left-hand side there, we actually send their postcards to America, and their postcards get popped into this rocket in the capsule, shot up out of Earth's atmosphere. They go to space. The capsule separates, comes back down to Earth, and then the postcards are collected and they get an official stamp that it's been to space. And the kids get that as a relic. So definitely trying to take advantage of any kind of things like this I can. Next slide, please. Beautiful. So resource boxes are another thing you've probably come across, and I've heard already spoken about today, is children's discovery. I've used the Big Bang boxes specifically that come as a great box with all the resources you need and the books and lesson plans, which has been so invaluable and really helped me. Another thing is grants. So the Children's Discovery and the Australian Space Agency put together some boxes of space-themed Edison robots and other great resources that were free because they were grant funded. So I was lucky enough to acquire 3 of those. So that was awesome. Next slide, please. So I'm kind of showing you a few of the ideas and the things that I've run before. So you can kind of see the diversity of the program, but also maybe if you've been thinking about something similar to run, it might spark some ideas for you. So make do construction tools. You might have seen those or come across those. So they're child safe tools. One more click. I think I've got there a few photos coming up on the right, please. Thank you. So I will do a mixture of design challenges that I come up with on my own, but then also supplement them with like some cardboard stencils from a local company called the Tiny Science Lab that I've found, which has been loads of fun. Next slide, please. Might be one more click. Engineering challenges. So this is definitely always a favorite with the children, where they get to like unleash their full design creativity. And I always get children to bring in some things from home, like recycle things, so encourage sustainability. And I find that whenever they bring something from home, it encourages buy into the program. And, you know, they think about what they're going to do the next week when they come in, and like they just have ownership over their work, which is, I find, really makes a big difference. And I always encourage that there's no rights or wrongs. We make mistakes, we learn, we have fun, and that's the whole part of it. So they know that it's an environment where they can take risks with what they do when they're learning, and it's fully supported. Next slide, please. Robots, one of my favorites. So there's such an amazing diversity of robots on offer at the moment. So Indie Spheros are our newest robot, which is like a beginner type robot, suitable for preschool children with some parent help, I would say. They're like a little car that read color coding. Then the Spheros are, definitely much more technical, that you do scratch coding on the iPads for. And then Autobots, cute little robots, adorable, that read color codes. And then BattleBots, they were just for a little bit of fun there. We've since retired those ones. But there's so many great robots that I would love to tell you about if I had more time. Next slide, please. One more click. Beautiful. Oh, stop motion animation. Can't speak highly enough about stop motion animation. I'd never done it before until I decided I'm going to do a stop motion program. So learning along with the kids. The kind of movies that they produce is actually amazing, and the like broad variety of work was extraordinary. And I always have like Play-Doh and Lego and some basics there, but it also again encouraged to bring your own mini figurines and your own Lego sets in. And you can see there like some girl in the picture there created her own movie set at home. And, you know, kids would make their own movies in between programs and bring it to me the next week and show me, look what I made, Renee. And so that's been really inspiring as well, I thought, and amazing. Next slide, please. Creative arts. Who doesn't love a little bit of messy fun in the library, especially those parents who can make the mess at the library and then leave? So this is always really popular, everything from like ceramics and clays to sketching and watercolors and acrylics. And children who wouldn't ordinarily have engaged in the arts, I found really, you know, had a great time and learnt something new and maybe found another passion. And I'll always, every single program that I run, I'll always curate a collection of resources as well to support every program that I run. So, and those books and resources are heavily borrowed and even referred to during the programs, which is really great. Next slide, please. I think I'm nearly about to be done.
And you have 1 minute left.
Beautiful. I might even skip the next slide then and just go straight to the end. Last slide, which has my email address if you did want to get in contact with me with any questions, or because I know that was a lot of different kind of things spoken about really quickly there, because the program itself is just so varied. So please do feel free to get in contact if there's any quick questions if we have time.
No questions coming through, but there was,
Beautiful.
Yeah, lots of comments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
there was a lot.
Looks like a great program. Yeah. And thanks very much for sharing it, Renee.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Thanks for having
me. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Okay, so upcoming we have now, I'll just click to her slides, the slide. Ribiette Howlader from Burwood Library, and the program is A Game a Week, a community hub.
Hi everyone. So I'm Rubaiyat. I'm named after a book and I work in a public library.
That's wonderful.
Mm, I'm part of the creative programs team and at Burwood Library, and we are on Gadigal and Wongal land. So shout out to Mob dialing in today and those who might be watching the recording of this video. Always was, always will be. So I'm going to talk about community partnerships. And that's one way we make library programs happen at Burwood Library. Today I'll be talking about one that happened for 5 weeks in the middle of 2025, and it was called Gamer Week. And it's actually a seasonal and ongoing community-led series of events, and it's aimed at encouraging collaboration and creative work between people in or interested in the game design development industry. The main thing that they are trying to do is to generate and foster creative collaboration, community building, and doing it all in a fun setting. It's a very supportive and welcoming environment. So people who are just starting out on their journey as a game developer or designer would find this a great place to make new friends and meet new collaborators. Next slide, please. So how did these organizers of gaming actually find us and approach us? I made the connection at another community-led program called Burwood Game Club. And that's a story for another day. But Mark and Aniko and George from Pixel Pasture Studio joined us in one of the events there, and they're friends with the game designers who showcase games at that event. Next slide, please. Pixel Posture are the folks are in the photo on the left-hand side. So they're an independent game development studio and social hosting collective. Along with another group, Serenade Games, friends of theirs, they used to run Gamer Week in the Sydney CBD, and their event was getting popular, and they were on the hunt for a bigger space for Gamer Week in 2025. So they considered Burwood Library as a venue because there was already an atmosphere of fun community events for creatives happening there. And geographically, the suburb is located a bit more centrally in Sydney, so they were hoping it would be a bit more accessible for people living out west or traveling from the south. Burwood Library is pretty open to collaborating with groups whose goals align with ours, so we offered them a space in the community hub in kind. And I can talk more about how we do partnerships with the Community Hub later on, if you like. Next slide, please. Okay, so Gamer Week happened every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. last year, starting from the end of June for about 5 weeks. The idea of Gamer Week draws influence from game jams. So game jams are like where game developers meet up and they get prompted with weekly constraints on prototyping a game. For example, one week they might be like, okay, we're going to make games that use only one button inputs or games that are only black and white. So participants were challenged to create 5 prototype games, one game each week. And the aim of this program is to get the developers and designers comfortable with practicing a rapid prototyping workflow, working quickly with small playable games that proves or disproves their challenge. And along the way, they make friends and meet new people. Next slide, please. So this next slide, Jacinta, if you could just click on both videos and run them simultaneously. So let's have a peek at what went on during those Thursday evenings. The evening would kick off with some mingling, some chatting, and if people had some prototype games, you could try them out. Then the organizers would do a presentation and reveal the week's challenge or theme. So one week it was weird inputs, and just coming up shortly on the left video. Oh, it's very slow motion. Yeah, one week there was oh yeah, here it is. So this on the left-hand side, you can see someone's holding some chopsticks, and they're using the chopsticks to press the button to to feed someone noodles, which is pretty funny. The video on the right is an example of another challenge. So they were inspired by choose your own adventure books, and it would print out a receipt of your adventure. The on the right hand side over here again, this one, the person could select some emojis on the screen, and once they selected the emojis, they would print out a zine that would turn into a poem, and they could fold it up and gift it to someone or keep it, which is really cute. Okay, so it it went pretty well, and people enjoyed themselves. So they're coming back this year in July to do another round. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, why do we do this? Well, we, like many public libraries, we aim to foster these values on the screen: social connection, equitable access to tools and spaces, community building, lifelong learning, all that good stuff that libraries are known for. And when our goals align with other community groups, we try and form a partnership with them. And that's how we try to embody our name, the Community Hub. This picture here is a picture of some weekly crafters community that meets up every Tuesday, called the Makers Circle. And this is an example of another partnership. And right now, all of this is for free. Space and tools in collaboration with the community are provided for free. Okay, last slide. Okay, I'd like to close off with an idea called the right to the city. So Gamer Week and other community partnerships could be one example of how we could work towards this idea. And I've got some book recommendations since this is a reference seminar. So I'll put that in the chat for you. The right to the city pretty much means we, the people, decide how the places we live change over time. So I'd like you to think about this. Is a public library a vital node in this framework? You know, we serve as an essential and accessible, we provide accessible spaces and simultaneously defying capitalist pressures. We offer free, equitable access to resources and democratic participation. So if public libraries are actively looking for opportunities to speak to people in our communities about their ideas, on how they relate to the places they live, what kind of social interactions they seek, and how they can gain agency in the journey in their own journey as an individual seeking connection, community, lifelong learning. And if we form a partnership with these people, how could we be helping to create space that has specific meaning to the community who lives in our city? Last slide, thanks. And I've got my contact details there. Thanks so much. I just realized I forgot to put the timer on, so I don't know how long my presentation was.
Well, you've actually still got a minute and 10 seconds, so we've got time for questions. The right to the city is a question.
We don't have any questions in the chat, but I was just wondering how your council supported you to engage with these external community groups.
Yeah, so you know, when I started, there was already this culture of engaging with community groups through co-authoring a memorandum of understanding and providing space. And actually, like, it's really nice. The leadership team do put a lot of trust in the creative programs team to, I guess, in through our own tapping into our own passions and trying to realize what the community hub could look like by engaging with the community. Another way we do this is by working regularly at the library help desk. So that's when you get opportunities to talk to people. And the conversations happen pretty organically. And as you know, people come to the library to ask all sorts of questions. And sometimes it's about, what could I do here?
Okay, thank you very much for that, Hawk. we're out of time now and moving on to the next one. Thanks, Rubiat. Okay, so now I'm introducing Holly Shortridge and Catherine Zhu from Randwick Library with their Around the World Fair. Thank you. Holly?
Hi,
everyone.
Sorry. Thank you, Jacinta. I'm Holly. I'm the Children and Youth Services Librarian at Randwick City Library, and I'm here this morning with Catherine, who is our Called Services Librarian, and we're here to share our experience planning and delivering our Around the World Fair events that we've held twice over the past 2 years. Thank you for inviting us today, Jacinta. So next slide, please. So I just want to acknowledge we're here meeting me and Catherine on Gadigal and Bidjigal land this morning. I pay my respect to our elders past and present, and I also would like to acknowledge all First Nation people who are joining us today or who may be watching the recording later on. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So why an Around the World Fair? So Ian mentioned earlier on that people from cold backgrounds are less likely to be library users. We've got some statistics up on the screen here. These are our local demographics, languages, and different multicultural groups found within our LGA in the community. So as you can see, we have quite a culturally and linguistically diverse community here at Randwick LGA. We wanted to hold one big event during Harmony Week to celebrate all these different cultures and languages and really engage our local community. Okay, next slide. So the goals and outcomes for this event that we were hoping to achieve, we really wanted to engage children and families within the local community, bring everyone together for a festival in Harmony Week to celebrate and educate about different cultures, different cultural practices, different countries and regions around the world, share some cultural appreciation and knowledge in a really fun and welcoming environment for the children. We were really trying to promote social cohesion in the community, make everyone feel welcome, and make people feel represented and seen in the library, who may be from different cultures and different countries. Make everyone feel seen. Okay, next slide, please. So as you can see, this is just a little list of all the planning different categories that went into the event. This was quite a big event. We had 9 different library staff. We also had volunteers who were involved, so it was a cross-team activity. We had people from our core team, children and youth team, toy and game team, makerspace team, volunteers, everyone organizing together to create this activity. We had craft, we had fun facts about all the different countries. You can see in this photo, we also had an airport in our makerspace. So we had multiple rooms for the activity. The airport was to get your passport stamped to go to the different countries. And we had a VR headset to visit those countries. You could get your photo taken on the green screen. We had food for everyone. We organized, food from different cultures. We had costumes that the kids and the grown-ups can try on that were authentic. So yeah, a lot of planning went into the event, as you can see. Okay, and I'll pass over to Catherine to talk about our community engagement. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I will be talking about community engagement program delivery and evaluation. Around the World Fair was designed to actively engage families from diverse cultural backgrounds, celebrating diversity and encouraging learning from other cultures. So to support this, we place a strong focus on inclusiveness by presenting a wide range of activities and resources that helped ensure broad cultural representation. The event consisted of multiple sections of bilingual storytelling and cultural stores set up by continents. The cultural activities were inspired by traditions from around the world to encourage active participation. We believe children were more engaged when participating in in-person activities because they learn from playing and doing, and hands-on experience is an effective way for them to learn from other cultures. So the variety of activities provided the participants with opportunities to learn from crafts, facets, quizzes, virtual reality, and playing with toys and games. Next slide, please. For accessibility and cultural connection, we displayed books selected from our community language collections and book loans from State Library, and multicultural toys, including food, animals, diverse faces of people, buildings, for children to explore and play. Participants were encouraged to dress up in their cultural costumes, or they can also borrow one from our toy and game collection and join the parade at the end of the program. So we gave prize to the best costume. In collaboration with volunteers in our library in general, we engage many volunteers for our core events. So on the day, we had 3 volunteers help us co-deliver storytelling in Japanese, French, and Cantonese, and paired with English. Next slide, please. So for outreach, apart from the usual channels such as e-newsletters, social media, the event was promoted to public schools and multiple community groups. And one of our team members reached out to the International French School and managed to add our poster to their newsletter that goes out to all the parents of the school. So the image on the right-hand side was the newsletter of the French school. Next, please. So on the event day, to make sure that we have a good flow of the program, so we had a quick catch up in the morning to make sure everybody knows where they were going to be, and we had 2 timetables prepared, one for the staff showing activities, time slots, programs, and details, staff responsibilities, and floating locations if they're required to. And for the public, we have hard copies of the program timetable on display, and also an electronic copy on the screen through PowerPoint. The PowerPoint also has the acknowledgement of the country and a feedback form with QR code for people to give us like the event feedback. Next slide, please. So for the actual delivery, zoning the space is a bit of a challenge. So because we have a lot of programs on the same day. So the setup was first discussed at our final meeting for the event. The image on the left-hand side showed the first layout that we decided on. And however, on the day, we had to readjust the space. And as you can see on the right-hand side, and the outdoor was found no longer suitable for storage sections because of the safety concern. And toys and games were moved to the wall side, considering safety, as children might just sit down and play on the floor. So costume parade moved to the main activity room because that was a concern that would block people walking through as well. And next slide, please. So this was some of the images taken for the venue setup on the day. So there's a main room. The bottom two images were showing the outside
You have
area.
1 minute left.
Okay, sorry, I'll just speed up. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So we have multiple teams involved, and I think we have to, I'll just talk about the warranties. So we asked if they were interested in supporting the activities when we decide on storytelling section. After that, our communication was mainly by emails. All right, so let's move on. So for evaluation, we use culture counts, and that was the program that we use. It's a very effective one. It lets you customize your own survey and then generate a QR code for you to print and collect feedback. So by attendance, we had around 100.
You're at
100
time,
people.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Will I just show your next slide for
Sure.
you?
Okay, so this is the evaluation, like the culture counts interface, how you can see from the survey that collected from the data. So next, so yeah, all right, great. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Holly. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Holly and Catherine. That was a very well organised event. Well done. Okay, our next speaker is Alicia Schnell and Ella Hemsley from Burwood Library, talking about tech hobbies and Seniors Week. Thank you very much, Alicia.
Hi. Okay, just make sure. Yep, you can hear us good. So I'm Alicia. I'm the Digital Services Librarian here at Burwood Library. We're coming to you from Wongaland.
I'm Ella, Digital Experience Officer at Burwood Library.
And today we're going to talk about a Seniors Week program that we had called Tech and Hobbies. Originally, the program was inspired by wanting to promote e-resources. So one of my roles is e-collections, so promoting magazines and things on Libby and BorrowBox, but it turned into sort of a wider digital literacy program. So if you want to go to the next slide. So with digital literacy, so Ella and I teach a lot of digital literacy programs, and most of the time digital literacy programs are focused on things that, in particular for seniors, that you have to do. So online banking, government services, Medicare apps, passwords, talking about scams and sort of a lot of things that seniors may need to be brought along in and feel like they're maybe not that interested, but they know that it's part of life now and they really have to do that. So we were trying to think of different ways that we could approach this. At the same time, I really wanted to promote our digital library services. And when I spoke to seniors and said, you know, we've got ebooks, we've got audiobooks, I got a lot of, oh, I'm not really interested in reading a book online. I'd much more read a real book, and I prefer novels, and which is totally fine. But when I mentioned that we had magazines, so Better Homes and Gardens, Gardening Australia, crochet books, that sort of thing, they were much more interested in potentially getting those for free. Magazines are expensive. So that sort of led to a bit of an idea.
Yeah, so following on from that kind of community-led approach, we learned what people are actually curious about and what caught people's attention, specifically the seniors who, sorry, can we just go back to the previous slide? Thank you. So yeah, we introduced some different apps in this program and including the digital resources as well. So yeah, rather than following an obligation technology first approach, I suppose, we were following on from people's specific interests. Next slide, please.
So one of the things that Ella and I had noticed when we were teaching one-on-one digital literacy was a very a very structured approach that people would want in terms of learning things. So people writing down steps, 1, 2, 3, this is how I access this thing. And as you all know, technology changes constantly. So what we wanted was to try and foster a sense of exploration and curiosity in terms of digital literacy. So learning tech wasn't about knowing these 5 steps that helped you open something, because that's going to change and that's different on every app and different on every phone. It's about trying to build up confidence, to explore, to try things, to not worry about breaking it, to give things a go. So what we thought was, if we're teaching people apps that they're interested in that aren't, on the serious side, it's a cookbook app, who cares? And something you might have a play with, and you use that curiosity, that leads to familiarity. I mean, I know how apps work. I've used an app before. Maybe I feel a bit more confident giving MyGov a go or something to that effect. Then to the confidence, I know how to do this. And then independence, maybe I can give this a go on my own. Maybe I don't need to, make my son do it for me, or I don't need someone looking over my shoulder, or I don't need written instructions to be able to access this. I can try and do it myself.
Yeah. Next slide, please. So what the program ended up looking like was a series of 3 sessions, which we held during the day on a weekday mid-morning. So we had a morning tea, some introductory relaxed discussion time, and we kind of turned it into quite a social event as well. Each session included some apps, just generic external apps, and other digital tools, and some of the digital resources that we have. So magazines on Libby, BorrowBox ebooks, and we did a hands-on activity. So with every session, we had we created something together that people could then take home with them. So we had a crochet bookmark session. We had a tech and gardening session where we made a little terrarium, and explored like planting apps, and we did a cooking one as well. So for that, we looked at different recipe apps, a little bit into AI introduction as well, and made fruit parfaits, which everyone was very happy with. So yeah, we did a feedback form, and yeah, got a bit of feedback that way.
You want to go to the next slide?
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go back to the feedback. So with the outcomes, so we had 3 different sessions, 15 different participants in 3 different sessions, different groups, and some coming to all of them. We kept it reasonably small just because there would be a lot of one-on-one help in terms of getting online, and also even with the programs that we were running. We did get quite a lot of new digital library users. So directly after the program, people were asking me to help them either sign up to the library or get straight on to the app so that they could see the magazines that I'd been showing them on an iPad during the session. So between that and the feedback, which we'll talk about, we thought that was pretty successful, just getting people to sign up and getting them straight onto the apps. And people came back to me after and said, what was that app you showed me? And we sent lists, and we had little sheets for each person of what the different apps were that we were showing them, and they were all free ones that they could explore themselves. Yeah. So sorry, next slide.
So we got some really positive feedback. People told us that they learned new things, so they discovered useful apps and wanted more technology-focused programs. So it was a bit of an insight into that people are definitely curious about learning technology, and even though we do run other programs around technology, including like the Be Connected events and Tech Help, Tech Savvy Seniors, that kind of thing, people really loved the practical applications that this included. Yeah, so we learned quite a lot. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the biggest takeaways is that digital literacy doesn't necessarily need to begin with technology, and that can kind of scare people off. So rather than promoting technology as a thing in and of itself, we use it as a tool to promote independence and link in with fun activities that people can do. And also that our digital resources can be a really good gateway for people to using the library. And yeah, making it fun and social is yeah, a really great way to do this.
Next slide. So for us, the idea of the program was not, like Ella said, not to start with technology. We didn't say, here's Libby, we've got this program, we've got this app, you should like it, it's really, really good. You know, get on ebooks and get into it, that kind of thing. It was, what are you interested in? Very participant led. What would make your life easier? What would make it fun for you to try technology, rather than the framing of, you know, technology scary, technology new, technology you have to get on board. And we said, you know, what do you enjoy doing? And when we spoke to people, the cooking, crochet, and magazines sort of came up. So those are the ones we went with. But really, if you look at the magazines and the resources, there are no hobbies that do not have a magazine or an app in there. So, you know, if people are interested in astronomy, whatever, that could be a session. It depends on what people are interested in, and then going from there. That way as well, we also got probably a lot more people that wouldn't normally attend a digital technology session.
You have a minute left.
Sorry. Okay. So a lot of people that wouldn't attend a technology session came along because they were interested in crochet. And then maybe they were curious about technology. And it, you know, highlighted some new things for them. So for us, in terms of digital literacy, that was a win because it was a good way to connect with people, and libraries are all about curiosity.
Thanks for that. Any questions?
That sounds like it was a really successful program. That lady looks very happy with her parfait there.
Yes, that's Mona. I would wish all of you a Mona in your libraries. So she's very keen, and she yells at our mayor about how awesome our programs are.
I was thinking about cooking in the library. That could be quite dangerous, but making something sweet like that was a very clever idea.
I spent a really long time trying to work out how we could cook in the library.
Yeah.
And layered parfait was quite the topic of conversation. A lot of people had not made parfaits before, and we just put out a million different ingredients, and people made layers, and it was very photogenic and gave sort of Instagram photographing your food sort of vibes as well, which was a good part of it.
Well, thank you very much, Alicia and Ella. That was a fabulous program as well. Okay, now we're moving on to just an update on the question research from Ellen Forsyth, State Library.
Hello, everyone. I'm here on the land of the people of the Gadi, and this is to give you a brief update on the question research. This research was actually instigated by the steering committee of the Reference and Information Services Working Group, the same people who brought you the seminar today. And it was done with cooperation of public libraries, but also us at the State Library and Charles Sturt University. It was focused around, it used the inquiry, next slide, please. It used the inquiry completion rate a structure as a framing. So it was around information and next slide, please. Customer service requests. And we initially did a pilot study in March last year. Next slide, please. And this is a word cloud from one of those libraries. And this is thanks to, some of these slides are thanks to Dr. Anita Dewey from Charles Sturt University. So this is to kind of show some of the words that were coming out through the questions people were asking in the pilot study. Next slide, please. And this is the word cloud from the other library who undertook the pilot study as well. If you could go to the next slide, please. And this was an analysis of all the questions showing the top question groups. So as you can see, membership-related questions were really big. Printing from various devices was really big. Lots of questions about borrowing. Now, this pilot study undertaken by 2 libraries informed the next stage of data collection, which was during the inquiry completion rate weeks of November last year and February this year. An expression of interest was put out for libraries who wished to participate, and we had about 17 libraries complete the data in February and 13 libraries complete the data in February this year. Next slide, please. Now, this shows the data that was collected in November last year. So from that, we have a total of over 20,000 questions. And the breakdown was kind of like a quarter of the total questions being information, and the remaining approximate 3/4 being customer service questions. Next slide, please. Now, because we had slightly different libraries in February, you can see that the mix is slightly different. So a higher percentage of information requests compared to customer service questions. It's hard to know why without further research. So that gives us, next slide, please, a total, this very large number of questions to analyse, frankly, one by one. So there is still quite a bit of work to be undertaken on this. And this is relying on Charles Sturt University and myself. I say that with caution. Next slide, please. Now, this shows an example of the questions. And what happened was the libraries that were participated were asked to submit all the questions that they were asked for a 1-week period. And this is, this shows some of them. Some questions were provided in more detail, some were provided in less, so that gives a bit of an interpretation that needs to be explored. So really at this stage, we have some top-level analysis, which I've done looking at each library that participated by the inquiry completion rate categories. These have been de-identified so that it doesn't say such and such a library had such and such data, because, yeah, there are reasons for choosing to go a semi-anonymous pathway down this so that libraries aren't feeling, I don't know, too exposed in terms of what their data collecting was. What was interesting is there are not really consistent patterns by library size. So I think it's actually going to lead to some more questions, but we've still got to do, answer the initial question of what questions are being asked by libraries. So that leads to some data coding. Next slide, please. And this shows some really basic preliminary to try and bring the information from different areas together. So however someone asked about printing, it would bring the printing questions together, and so on. So it's still, these are really rough coding, and I was looking at them and I've got to redo them. But it's really helping to bring like with like, particularly for breaking down some of the really big categories like administration. And a lot of the administration questions are, can I do something? A lot of them are about membership. And there are many, many ways to ask about how do I join? Can I join? May I join? And it's trying to get all of those ones together, but also to still get the subtlety of how people are expressing the different ways of bringing this together. At this stage, I really don't know what the time frame is going to look like, because it's hard to get dedicated time to work on this analysis. But I will be hoping to get some work done on this, but also hopefully Charles Sturt University can assist us with some of the data analysis as well. I really would like to say a huge thank you to the libraries that participated in the data collection. Do understand it's not an easy process, but I also, from feedback I've been hearing from the different libraries that undertook the data collection, it was actually helpful for them in thinking about, oh, do we need to do more training about this? Do we need better signage on this? Do we need, to rethink how we're doing some things? So that's actually always, I think, very helpful to know, is that much as I'm really appreciative of the data collection, it was actually valuable for the libraries who participated in the data collection. And it was libraries from very big ones across the state to some very small ones across the state. So it's been helpful to get all this data coming in. But at present, there's a lot more coding that needs to be undertaken, and then additional data analysis. So please be patient with this, but I still think it's an exciting process, and a big thank you to the Reference and Information Services Working Group for actually coming up with this project to further explore work that you're all doing as part of Everyday. So if you ever want to talk to me about it, please get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Sorry, I'm in the dark now. The sun has gone behind clouds. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Ellen, and thank Anita for all the work you've been doing on this research. I'd also like to thank the Reference and Information Services Working Team, Jacinta, Lauren, Caitlin, and have I missed anyone? I don't think so. And yourself, Ellen, for all the hard work you've put in for putting this seminar together today. I would like to take a big thank you for everyone who's attended today and just remind you that you will be sent a short survey once you leave the session today, and we'd appreciate any feedback you have for us today. I'd like to say a big thank you to all the speakers in our lightning talks today. We really appreciate you sharing your stories and what you do in your libraries. Some really great ideas, and I'm sure many of us will be reaching out to you over the next couple of months. And a big thank you to Ian. I know he has left, but thank you, Ian, for presenting today. Really has started us thinking about who isn't using our services, who are the people we need to contact. Everyone, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Michelle.